Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Okay, can you all hear me? If you can hear me, put yes in the chat window there, please. Okay, if you can hear me, put yes in the chat window, please. Okay, Wendy, yes. Jack and Carrie, can you hear me? Jack says yes. Carrie, can you hear me? Okay, David and Carrie, can you hear me? If you would type in the chat box, please. Okay. Okay, Mary, or Dr. Jennings, can you hear me? Dr. Jennings, can you hear me? Okay, we got somebody joining in by phone also. Okay. Okay, we're going to give it maybe a few more seconds here. Sorry about the false start yesterday. I thought I'd put it on Thursday, but it was on Wednesday. I apologize for that. Mistakes are made. Okay. Everybody's here. Okay, now a lot of stuff that I'm going to be telling you about B12 you probably had no idea of, okay? As with a lot of things that I teach. So please pay close attention because this is going to benefit you and your patients, going to give you a whole new well of knowledge that you didn't have before. So let's kind of get into it. That's just great. I had it up there, so where is it? There we go. Okay, here we got it. Okay, we're going to stick the chat box right there where you can comment. Okay, how to get seniors to metabolize B12. Now, we're going to go through several different aspects of it. This probably isn't going to take as long as previous classes, but I do want you to know all the things that B12 does and how it's utilized. So, first we need to ask, are they ingesting B12? If so, maybe it's not enough. Secondly, are they ingesting ample amounts of B12? If they're ingesting animal protein at least once a month, they are getting vitamin B12. Now, to give you an idea of how little animal protein that you need, they did a study, a couple of different studies on Seventh-day Adventists. And they took Adventists that only ate animal protein 1 meal per week. And the men lived an average of 4 years longer than average, the women 5 years longer than average. Then they did another separate study on those that ate animal protein just once a month, 1 meal a month. And the males lived 8 to 9 years longer, and the females lived 9 to 10 years longer than average. So obviously you don't need a lot of B12, all right? So you don't need a lot, so are you deficient? Ingestion is not the only important part of the equation. It needs to be digested, needs to be absorbed, needs to be transported through the blood to the liver, and then stored there, okay? B12 can be stored for about 10 years before deficiency symptoms show up. So you can be totally devoid of B12 in your diet for 10 years before you even see any symptoms. Let's see in the chat box here, how many of you knew that? How many of you knew that you could be totally devoid of vitamin B12 in the diet before you even see symptoms of it? Carrie says no. Jack says no. Dr. Jennings says no. Donaldson says no. Okay, so that's a new thing for everybody. Transported upon demand to target cells, transported through the cell wall, transported through the nuclear membrane. Okay? And we're going to have a couple of things in here that I actually didn't put in here, but we've talked about before. If they're ingesting enough, why isn't it being metabolized? So all this is the metabolization here. What does it do? It's a growth factor, and it's isolated from the antibiotic streptomycin, which is why livestock are given antibiotic tags. Okay, how many of you knew, we knew that like chickens and turkeys and beef were fed antibiotics. How many of you knew that they were fed antibiotics because the antibiotics were loaded with B12 and that caused the livestock to grow? How many of you knew that? Carrie knew that. Dr. Donaldson did not know that. Dr. Meyer didn't know it. Jack didn't know it. Okay, so this is, Dr. Jennings didn't know it. This is stuff that you can relate to your patients, and other doctors, I guarantee you most doctors don't know that's why they have antibiotics. They say, oh, antibiotics somehow causes growth, and that's why they give it to them. Okay, well, specifically, it's because the streptomycin in the antibiotics produces a lot of B12, and that's what causes the growth. Okay? Unique feature of B12 compounds is the presence of the cobalt atom in the trivalent state. No other cobalt-containing organic compound has been found in nature where cyanide is present. In B12A, there's cyanocobalamin. B12B replaces the cyanide with a hydroxyl, and it's aquacobalamin. B12C replaces it with nitrate, so you have a nitrocobalamin. How many of you knew that there were basically 3 different moieties of B12? No for Dr. Jennings. Not those 3, Dr. Meyer. Carrie, no. Okay, so we're learning a few things. Jack, no. Dr. Donaldson knew about 2 of them. Okay, well, that's good. Now, cobalt is in the center of a porphyrin, like iron in heme, magnesium in chlorophyll. Okay? Now, let's just talk about the chlorophyll. We'll just drop a little thing in here. People who are lacking in heme, for iron, like hemoglobin, all you need to do if they have ample iron is give them chlorophyll. Let's say they have lowered hemoglobin. Give them chlorophyll and have them start eating more green leafy vegetables, and then the body will pluck out the magnesium and plug in an iron. Now you've raised the hemoglobin level. Pretty simple. How many of you knew that? Dr. Meyer does that a lot. Donaldson knew it. Carrie didn't know it. Dr. Jennings didn't know it. Okay, a couple knew that. It's really, really easy to raise that hemoglobin just by doing that, considering that you have enough iron. Okay? Okay, B12 occurs in liver, milk, meat, beef heart, eggs, fish, oysters, and clams. Under certain dietary conditions may be synthesized by the intestinal organisms. In general, it's not present in vegetable foods except rice polishing and wheat germ. How many of you knew that rice polishings and wheat germ are basically the only things in the plant world that have vitamin B12? Now I'm going to add to that legumes, the tendrils that go down in the roots of the legumes also have a lot of it, but basically we get it, and so those tendrils in the legumes are sterilized and they're cut off, so we can't get it from that, but otherwise it's here. So Dr. Jennings didn't know it. Dr. Meyer knew wheat germ, yes. Rice polishings, no. Dr. Donaldson's, no. Okay. So here's a way to basically get it to individuals that are vegans. Have them get wheat germ and rice polishings, and then they can remain basically a vegan and still get their B12. But there are other factors going on here too, so we still have to look at some other things. Pernicious anemia caused by a deficit must be regarded as a result of gastric mucosal deficit of the intrinsic factor. This intrinsic factor either facilitates the absorption of B12 or in some ways increases the activity of the vitamin or protects it from destruction. Now, the gastric mucosal deficit of the intrinsic factor we're going to get into in future lectures. So you got to come back to get that, because that's kind of very detailed type of thing. So stay tuned for that. B12 converts folic acid to Fhyllinic acid, and the intrinsic factor is necessary for its absorption. So B12 converts folic acid into tetrahydrofolic acid, or Fhyllinic acid, and it also requires vitamin C for that, which we covered in an earlier type of version. So you need B12 and vitamin C to put folic acid into its physiologically active form. Folic acid by itself really doesn't do anything. It's got to be in its active form. The intrinsic factor is necessary for its absorption. Okay? Now B12 relieves the anemic phase and the lingual and neurologic symptoms, but the folic acid only benefits the anemic phase. So you can have a deficit of one and be fooled into that you have enough of the other one. Okay? Hydrochloric acid secreted by the parietal cells and pepsin secreted by the chief cells are necessary to prevent pernicious anemia. So basically you need hydrochloric acid and pepsin to activate the intrinsic factor. Okay? How many of you knew that? Hydrochloric acid and pepsin are necessary to activate the intrinsic factor for the absorption and metabolism of B12. Dr. Donaldson says yes. Dr. Jennings says yes. Jack says no. Dr. Meyer says yes. Okay, so we have some that say yes, some that say no. Okay, glandular mucoprotein or gastric mucus substance is considered to be the main carrier of the intrinsic factor of the human gastric juice. How many of you knew that? Glandular mucoprotein. So you have to have the right mucoproteins for it, the intrinsic factor, to be carried and for it to work. Okay, Dr. Donaldson says no. Dr. Meyer says no. Okay, what about the rest of you? Did you know that? Carrie says no. Okay, now this is a thick mucoprotein, meaning that it's alkaline. Okay, so it's the stuff that protects the lining of the stomach, basically. Okay, you have to have that there in order for that to happen. But the intrinsic factor is a glycoprotein. Okay, anybody know what glyco means? Glycoprotein, yes, a sugar. Okay, or a carbohydrate. Sugar. Okay, everybody kind of knows what that means. Okay, so let's take a stab at that. If you have, we're going to add stuff in here that isn't in the text. If you have somebody on a keto diet and you're not getting sugars, guess what you're going to be deficient in? And guess what? Your body is not going to be able to make this mucoprotein that carries the intrinsic factor. How many of you knew that? So if you have a prolonged keto diet where you're basically bereft of carbohydrates and sugars, your body is not going to have the glycoproteins to carry the intrinsic factor. Okay, so we're all learning something here. Okay, that's good. The intrinsic factor is a glycoprotein that binds B12 and facilitates its absorption. So, you get people that are on this keto diet, they're not going to absorb it. and they're going to start having neurological problems. And we're not going to know it because we're looking at a whole lot of other stuff. Okay? So it's not just you have to have the hydrochloric acid and pepsin. You also have to have carbohydrates for this to happen. Now, is that all of it? May serve as a carrier in increasing intestinal transport, may protect the vitamin from or render it unavailable to intestinal bacteria. So, the intrinsic factor binds B12, facilitates its absorption, but also carries it in intestinal transport, protects from the vitamin, or renders it unavailable to intestinal bacteria. In other words, the intestinal bacteria can attack it and make it useless. How many of you knew that? Dr. Meyer, no. Dr. Jennings, no. Carey, no. So I'm stopping at these points to ask you this because I don't want to just ramble through it. I want it to kind of sink in, okay? That's why I'm stopping like that. Maximal absorption of B12 occurs in the lower ilium. Okay, Dr. Donaldson assumes something like that because it needs to get to the colon. Well, not so much. It goes to the lower ilium. You were close. Okay, no cigar on that, Dr. Donaldson. Maximal absorption is the lower ilium. Okay. B12 may influence the course of the anemias of sprue or celiac disease. But folic acid may also be needed. So in a previous one, we talked about folic acid being needed to suppress celiac disease. Now, how many of you knew that you could suppress celiac disease with proper metabolism of B12 and folic acid? Dr. Donaldson says no. Dr. Carey says no. So basically the celiac disease here, most of us just say, okay, well, it's a wheat gluten issue, okay? Well, not entirely, okay? So we got to talk about genotype and phenotype. Now, they may be predisposed to celiac disease, but here's how some ways that we can suppress celiac disease by making sure that the B12 and the folic acid is properly metabolized, okay? So, all this that we went through can also affect in a positive manner celiac disease and IBS type of things. B12 seems to have an influence on several various phases of metabolism. Among these are synthesis of nucleic acids, the metabolic pathways of glycine, serine, methionine, and choline. How many of you knew that B12 is needed in the synthesis of nucleic acids? So basically, if you don't have the B12 right, no matter what your age, you're going to be affecting your genetic expression. Okay? You're actually going to be changing your genetics because they can't be expressed properly. So all this, interlinks for a whole lot of stuff here, and several of you were totally unaware of this. Okay? So we got to look at all these factors just in order for our nucleic acids to be expressed and our genetics to be expressed properly. So the genotype is what's in the genes and programmed to happen. The phenotype is what actually happens. What I normally give to patients is that type 2 diabetes. Pretty much everybody knows that type 2 diabetes, if you do all the right things, exercise and diet, keep your weight down, all that sort of thing, you don't have to take insulin. Well, it's that way in virtually every type of genetic issue, okay? So here we can actually cause a genetic problem if we don't have proper B12 metabolism. Okay? All right. Coenzyme B12 takes part in the metabolism of the methyl groups, serving as a transmethylating agent, functioning in the biosynthesis of thiamine, methionine, possibly choline. B12 appears to be involved in at least 7 or 8 different enzyme reactions, including reduction of RNA to DNA. Okay, so now we have right here, that's the synthesis of the nucleic acids. So it's the reduction of RNA to DNA. So the RNA might be there, but the B12 is necessary to take it into the DNA production. Okay? Thiamine is the only heat labile B vitamin. Thiamine deficiency occurs in individuals who eat only thoroughly cooked foods and is devoid of raw foods. Thiamine deficiency nets hypochlorhydria. First of all, how many of you knew that thiamine is the only heat labile B vitamin? How many of you knew that? Dr. Meyer, no. Dr. Donaldson, no. Dr. Jennings, no. Carey, no. Okay, so when you have people that are only eating, let's say, well-done foods, thoroughly cooked foods, and there's a lot of them out there with your patients. We'll get into this later when we're talking about B vitamins. So that in itself is going to thoroughly astound you. Now, we learned when we were talking about vitamin C that vitamin C, when it's thoroughly cooked, it caused a problem with vitamin C. You no longer have that vitamin C complex, okay? So, basically, okay, I've read that it was the most common deficiency for the glycolysis of the Krebs cycle. And so it was confused because it's in meat, right? This is why, when you thoroughly cook it there. So basically, when I have patients who come in and I see that they're having trouble with thiamine in specifics, okay, I immediately start asking about food. They think, oh, anything but thoroughly cooked food is yucky. And they hardly ever eat salads. They hardly ever eat fresh fruit, vegetables, stuff like that. Although they may eat some. So I try to step them into it. So I say, okay, instead of having only well-done steaks, for example, have a medium well. And when they start saying, well, that's not so bad, then I say, okay, start having medium. And they start saying, well, that's not so bad either. So we take them down into medium rare. And sometimes that's as far as we get them. Okay, yeah, medium rare for me. Good for you, Dr. Meyer. Okay. Then we try to step them into rare. Okay. So as we're doing that, we say, okay, do you like salads? And a lot of people, some people, no. But a lot of people say, well, yeah, I like salads. Okay, I want you to start having a salad a day. And start, putting some raw vegetables in it. Like celery and carrots, stuff like that. Most people will say, okay, yeah, I can do that. And then you start saying, after they're getting consistent with that, do you like any fruit? I go, well, yeah, well, what kind? Well, I like apples. Okay, we'll start having an apple a day. And then, they may have, they may like grapes, they may like something else. But, you step them into that raw fruit also. So basically, you want to get them into a position where they're eating at least 50% of the diet raw. And I'm going to say that like a medium cooked steak, for example, is 50% raw in there, okay? And a medium rare steak is maybe 75% raw. So you're kind of looking at that with the salads and with the fresh fruits and vegetables. Okay, so you're stepping them into it. So we have hypochlorhydria. Now remember, hydrochloric acid is necessary for the intrinsic factor to work. So now we're having trouble with the hydrochloric acid. Okay, and it's because we're eating all thoroughly cooked food. Well, eating only thoroughly cooked food causes denaturing of the amino acids, causing a deficiency of B6 as it transaminates to convert one amino acid into another. So now you're creating a deficiency of B6, not strictly because you're cooking the B6, because it really isn't heat labile, but because now you have a deficiency in amino acids, and B6 has to start converting amino acids into other amino acids in order to be able to build complete proteins. Okay? Now B6 is necessary to convert tryptophan into niacin. And so you intrinsically make your own niacin with B6 and tryptophan. Okay? Now, tryptophan and lysine are two different amino acids that are basically deficient in most carbohydrates. So when you have people eating carbohydrates, you have them eat raw nuts, raw seeds, or legumes, which are beans, peas, and lentils. All of these have larger amounts of tryptophan and lysine, so your body can make complete proteins out of it. And this is where a lot of individuals who are vegans get into trouble, because they're not eating foods that are high in tryptophan and lysine. Now, one glaring exception to that is potatoes. Potatoes have all the essential amino acids in them. Okay? Matter of fact, potatoes were originated in the Andes, and they were taken in the Columbian Exchange over to Europe, and they had all sorts of people dying of starvation and dying of different diseases over there. So they brought it over, and what they found was the royals didn't like potatoes because they were peasant food. But guess what? Potatoes brought from the New World over to Europe, all the peasants started recovering, so then the royalty said, oh, maybe we ought to be eating that. So they started eating potatoes. So potatoes from the Andes, from the New World, brought over to the Old World, saved the Old World. How many of you knew that? Carrie, no. Dr. Meyer, no. Dr. Jennings, no. Dr. David Donaldson, no. Now there's a really fascinating book called The Columbian Exchange. If you can still get a copy of it, it gets into a whole lot of stuff like that. For example, there was no natural predator for elms in the New World, but they brought over elms from the Old World and brought in Dutch elm disease, which started killing all the elms in the New World. That's an example of shifting the other way, okay? Now, deficiency of niacin nets achlorhydria. So basically, in essence, when you have a deficiency, when you overcook your foods, you're going to cause hypochlorhydria from thiamine deficiency, and you're going to cause achlorhydria from niacin deficiency. How many of you knew those facts? Eating nothing but thoroughly cooked foods causes hypo and achlorhydria. Okay, most of you didn't know that at all. Okay, therefore, eating only well-cooked foods cause problem with hydrochloric acid deficiency. And remember, now look at this. Pepsin needs a pH of 2.0 or less for optimal performance and is totally inactivated at 5 or above. How many of you knew that? Remember, you need hydrochloric acid and pepsin for the intrinsic factor to work. Okay, Dr. Meyer knew that, Dr. Donaldson knew that, Dr. Jennings knew that. That's good. Okay. Drinking with meals dilutes hydrochloric acid. Eating carbohydrates with animal protein causes a large production of saliva, which gets more alkaline with more production. Therefore, when you combine animal protein with plant carbohydrate, you get a large production of saliva, which causes problems with neutralizing hydrochloric acid. How many of you knew that? Combining plant carbohydrate with animal protein causes a large production of saliva, which is alkaline, which then causes problems with neutralizing hydrochloric acid. Okay, so here we have two different things that we're doing. We're eating thoroughly cooked food. Now, Suzanne Summers, I don't know that she talks about that. But we're eating thoroughly cooked food and we're combining plant carbohydrates with animal protein. So there's a couple of different problems. Sugar inactivates hydrochloric acid. So what do? We drink sweet tea or sugary drinks with our meals. So now we're causing problems with diluting the hydrochloric acid. Now we put sugar in with it, and that totally inactivates the hydrochloric acid. How many of you knew that? So you have your dessert after your animal protein meal. This is why a lot of people just, after dessert, they're going, oh man, oh. So I tell people, when you go to a restaurant, order dessert first, and while they're cooking the animal protein, you've already put it through and it's already gone through the system. Now it's not going to neutralize the hydrochloric acid that you need to digest that animal protein. Okay. Sodium bicarbonate or baking soda inactivates vitamin B12. How many of you knew that? Dr. Meyer, no. Dr. Donaldson, no. Carrie, no. Dr. Jennings, no. So here we're eating bread with our meals, which has baking soda in it. Okay? So we're diluting the meals with drinking. We're combining our foods, which gives alkaline saliva. We add sugar with sugary drinks or dessert, and we're eating bread with it. It's a wonder we're all alive, right? Okay. Older individuals seldom eat raw food. They eat mostly thoroughly cooked food. They eat a lot of bread products made with baking soda because it's cheap. They eat a lot of sugary food because they have trouble tasting food. Okay? So everybody get the picture here? So basically, when you have an older person, it really is relatively easy to get them to start having adequate B12 because here are all the factors that we just went through. You got to have them start cooking the food less. You got to get them away from the sugary food, get them away from the bread products. You got to take all these things into effect, okay? Okay, does anybody have any question on this? I'm telling you, you can have a huge turnaround in older people because you're going to start activating that intrinsic factor when you do all this stuff. I'm telling you, within a month to 6 weeks, you will have a huge, huge turnaround in older individuals. Okay? Everybody get that? Let's see a yes or a no in there. It doesn't take a whole lot of intrinsic factor, but that's the stuff that's causing a problem with the hydrochloric acid and the intrinsic factor. Okay? So you can take these older individuals that are having all sorts of neurologic and other problems, totally turn them around just by pointing these particular things out to them. Okay? And just stepping them into it. Now, they're not going to want to do it all at once. You got to step them into it. Okay? And that's a really big thing. You got to get them to understand it. And as they start feeling better, then they're a whole lot more likely to do it. Okay? Now, before we go on with the rest, does anybody have any question over anything that we covered here? Does anybody have any question over anything that we covered? Okay, so I'm going to take that particular one down. Okay, now we're going to go to evidence-based medicine and best practices. We bat these terms around a lot. We don't really even know what they mean. Okay, so basically that's why I included this in there, because we're not really even aware of what they're talking about when people are talking about this stuff. We're expected to owe up to it and do it, but we don't even know what it means. So basically what it means, if you read through this, and this is out of the ACA, and they got it from the British Medical Journal. Okay? So we got two big sources here. And what it means is you have to go to well-known sources like textbooks and periodicals that are well accepted, and your own experience. And that is what evidence-based medicine and best practices are. So part of it is established science, but part of it is the art, the things that you have found in your practice that works. And every one of us have found stuff that works that we didn't really learn from anywhere, but we just kind of tripped over on it. So each of us has our own individual way of practicing. And we've gone to all these different seminars, read all this stuff, and we stumbled across some stuff, and that's what makes our own practices unique. Okay? Everybody get that? Let's see a yes or a no in there. And you can click on this in the seminar material here, and it'll be sent to you, or you can ask for it in just send me an email for any of this stuff. drBBRK@hotmail.com. You can also call me 469-995-9907. So either of those, you can do it. And again, the Zoom program allows you to click on it and ask for it, and then we okay it, and then it's then you get it in your email. Okay. So now we're going to go to videos. I have classes that I give, and we have 4 different classes, and we have videos out on 3 of those classes. And the 4th one we finished. I don't know why it did that. Okay, the fourth one we finished filming, and we are now editing it. This is getting really crazy here. I don't know why it's doing that. Okay. I don't know why it does some of these things, but here we are. Okay. So the first 1, 2, and 3 are out, since you probably didn't know about it. Now the post-production price is $500. If you order it today or tomorrow, you can have them for $200, $250 each for a year's viewing, including any of the upgrades that we do. Okay, and there are going to be upgrades. We've already done a couple. So what are included on them? How do you get them? Well, you can see what they are if you go to ttapcenter.com under Seminars Professional. Go to the seminar you want, and it has a description of a lot of stuff that's on them. Okay, and if you want to order it there, you can type in film and your phone number, click the down arrow by $3.95, and choose the $250. You can also call me at this number, 469-995-9907, and we can send it to you that way as well. Okay, so either of those are fine. Now what are they about? T-TAPS Film 1 is use of myotatic reflexes to resolve pain and biomechanics of chronic neuromusculoskeletal conditions. And we do that using primarily myotatic withdrawal, cross-extensor reflexes, reflexes of posture, locomotion, reciprocal inhibition. Now you can normally get somebody off a cane or a walker in 1 or 2 visits, or standing up out of a wheelchair in just a few visits. Quite eye-opening. Immediately restore significant range of motion. This is very low force. Understand how reciprocal innervation can immediately help restore function in distant parts of the body. Correct foot drop in the majority of cases, just a visit or 2. Cogwheel rigidity of arm and leg of stroke victims, and improve hearing and tinnitus in most cases. You think you've all seen it all? Think again. Most cases, it quickly and significantly reduces or eliminates the following symptoms, and it fulfills the ACA evidence-based and best practices as official policy. So here you get a quick resolving of fibromyalgia pain, sciatica, herniated or bulging disc, and these are all, you use Lesage's, milligrams. Standard orthopedic neurologic test shows that it works. It's not that you're just taking my name for it, you're doing those tests. Unoperated rotator cuff frozen shoulder syndrome, regional pain syndrome, formerly RSD, cranial nerve symptoms. You test it by nystagmus, strabismus, Weber's, for example. Hearing loss of differing frequencies, tinnitus, carpal tunnel thoracic outlet syndrome, any of the tunnel syndromes, verifiable by Phelan's, reverse Phelan's, Tinel's, Addison's, colding or burning hands or feet, Raynaud's syndrome, loss of vibration sense in the feet and toes, dizziness, vertigo, positive pinwheel test, bladder leakage. Yeah, you can stop bladder leakage. Now, I know a lot of you have patients that they really like those stylish diapers, but actually you can help them get over it. MS symptoms, Parkinson's symptoms, burning tongue syndrome, burning pain, lower and upper extremities, upper body, genitals, upper body, female cyclical menstrual pain, vaginal prolapse, numb hands and feet, drop transverse cuboid arches, hyper and polyhydrosis, cogwheel rigidity such as in stroke, ALS, Guillain-Barré symptoms, seizures, a lot more. Just amazing what you can do in a short period of time with very little effort. You will be amazed, guaranteed. Techniques are not reflexology, AK, CRT, PMT, TBM, transverse friction massage, spinal reflex therapy, or contract reflex analysis. It's totally unique. I developed this stuff based on known tenets of acupuncture, trigger point therapy, reflexes, and neurology. It's found in Laws and Tenets in Dorland's Illustrated Medical Dictionary, Chusid's Neurophysiology, Guyton's Textbook of Medical Physiology, and others as taught in all CCE accredited chiropractic colleges. Treatment effects are verified by standard orthopedic neurologic exam. I am published in JMPT and Chiropractic Economics on techniques being taught. I am a former adjunct faculty member, postgraduate division, Texas Chiropractic College. Film 2, this is on scar tissue and rehabilitation. Now, the first part that we do is actually continuation of part 1 because there just wasn't enough time to do it. We show you how to muscle test over 200 muscles easily in less than 10 minutes and immediately strengthen all the weak ones, except in case of extreme atrophy, there may be a muscle or two that has that. That'll take longer. By lightly touching one muscle like that. Immediately go back. And there we go. Doesn't matter whether you have 3 or 53 weak muscles. You immediately go back and they're all strong, except for maybe something that's extremely atrophied. That's all the more it takes. So if you're doing applied kinesiology, you no longer have to go from muscle to muscle. You do it all in one time, just like that. Now, the next, you find dermatomal pain, which usually takes less than 5 minutes. You're palpating over the whole body. You immediately decrease or eliminate all pain. And inflamed areas usually take a bit longer, although that pain will go down by 50% immediately. It'll take a little longer for the rest of it to go down. You find one spot on them, do this, immediately go back and I'm having trouble with that snap. And all the pain will be gone to pressure. So this eliminates you needing to go from trigger point to trigger point to get rid of those like that. Now you think you've seen it all, think again. Now I take athletic injuries for example, but it extends to your regular patients too. So you have chronic athletic injuries like hamstrings, ankles, wrist, golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, rotator cuff, knee, turf toe, shin splints, chondromalacia patella, weak ankles, trick knees, plantar fasciitis, myalgia paresthetica, bronchitis, asthma, gagging, esophageal spasm, reflux esophagitis, TMJ syndrome, migraine headaches, chronic whiplash, chronic hip, knee, ankle, shoulder, elbow, and wrist pain, tendonitis, bursitis, adhesive capsulitis, or frozen shoulder, Dupuytren's contracture, trigger finger, Osgood-Schlatters disease, chronic fever and sore throat, old scar tissue, acupuncture, small joint fibrous ankylosis, chronic shingles pain, arthritic finger and toe joints, unadhere organs from each other and stimulate circulation and lymphatic flow, diaphragmatic and accessory breathing muscle function, endonasal techniques including balloon nasoplastic, eustachian tube techniques for chronic sinusitis, chronic migraines, eustachian tube deafness, Meniere's syndrome, female cyclical menstrual pain, vaginal prolapse, dizziness and vertigo, dropped longitudinal and transverse cuboid arches, unexplained chest pain, MS Parkinson's, ALS, Guillain-Barré symptoms, old fractures, chronic pain, bone sclerotome pain, fibromyalgia, burning pain, resistant sciatica, spondylolisthesis, necessity of using a cane or walker again, herniated or bulging disc, rotator cuff, frozen shoulder, foot drop, hearing loss of different frequencies, tinnitus, carpal radial tunnel, thoracic outlet syndrome, ankylosing spondylitis symptoms, and seizures, and a whole lot more than that. Again, it's all based on known tenets. Okay? Film 3, adjusting manipulation mobilization of extremity cranial and vertebra. Think you've seen it all, learned from a doctor who's treated over 40,000 patients from all 50 states and 97 countries. Over 3,000 upper-level athletes, over 800 of which were professional athletes, 12 professional athletic teams, NFL Run for Daylight, fastest man competition. I was the first chiropractor asked to treat them. Get most athletes back on the field in days, in most cases, even if they've been off for months. And so this spills over into your regular practice. And you haven't lived until you've taken a football team, 73 players. You treat them all in the hour before the game, then at halftime, then immediately after the game. So I treat about 220 visits inside of 3 hours, with the half, with playing the halves in it. You learn to treat things real quick and get excellent results. You just don't stay there, okay? Ribs and cartilages, golfer and tennis elbow, chondromalacia patella, bunions, dementias. Yeah, you can get people out of dementias by adjusting the knee of all places. High arches and flat feet, drop transverse and cuboid arches. Reliable or relieve reflux esophagitis, hiatal hernia, esophageal spasm, upper GI conditions. This is from osseous adjustments, all of these. So we're not just adjusting the stomach down like in applied kinesiology. We're actually showing you what's causing it. We're not treating the symptom. Acromio and sternoclavicular joints, chondritis, costochondritis, hallux rigidus, hammer and claw toes, bow legs, knock knees, frozen shoulder adhesive capsulitis, rotator cuff, all the tunnel syndromes. Cranial techniques. I've gotten autistic children speaking sentences after only single words, significant demeanor changes, even entering normal schools. Other docs I taught report youth autistic patients can now multitask where they couldn't prior to treatment. So, for example, one of the docs that I taught went home and he was treating this 5-year-old child who had never spoken a word. So he did the cranial treatment, which, by the way, takes all of 3 minutes, very light force. After he was done, the child turned and looked at him and said, "Thank you, doctor." First 3 words he'd ever spoken. The doctor was floored. The parents were floored. Okay. I had a doc bring in a woman, had a son that was like 20 or 21, and autistic children are angry all the time, and they pace and pace and pace. So I got him up front, I treated him, he immediately stopped being angry, stopped pacing. Doctor called me a couple of weeks later, said the parents called him, said, he laughed for 3 days afterwards. And you get those sort of results like that. Stop elusive migraines, improve vision, hearing, tinnitus, improve elusive organ and gland dysfunctions, correct TMJ dysfunctions. Film 4, this is biochemical individuality strategies. So the first 3 apply to the nervous system. The nervous system controls the secretory and excretory events of the body. So you have people that are you've done nutritional intervention, it's just not working, okay? So you don't know what to do. Well, the first 3, as you go through there and correct those, all of a sudden the biochemical things resolved by themselves because it was actually a neurological issue and you didn't recognize it. So part 4 here is strictly biochemical issues, and we teach it in a different way. We show you the chemical pathways. We also teach about negative feedback loops, which are super, super important. And you have to have ingestion, digestion, absorption, transport through the blood, penetrating the cell wall, penetrating the nuclear and mitochondrial membrane, okay? We teach all of those things. Every one of them is super important, You just don't know all the parts about it. So we make it easy so you can start getting results. I hold an MS in biology emphasizing human nutrition. I'm also a master herbologist. I've been a member of 6 nutritional and medical and scientific boards for major nutritional companies. I've performed over 15,000 nutritional assessments. And you think about anything, and we have a whole list of things in here, about anything you could imagine nutritionally, and we show you how to help take care of it. Okay, so this should be out in 3 or 4 weeks. We are editing the film right now. I think we're about 3/8 of the way through it at this point. But the first 3 are all there, but you can pre-order this one also, which I would recommend. Okay. Now, I also do mentoring. And in mentoring, we do it different from practice management, practice consulting, or coaching. I've had all those. I've had 32 different ones of those. And I saw that there was a deficiency in each one that I took. And basically, so I ended up, I had practice at least 5 to 10 times bigger than anybody I ever took seminars from, or any of those. So I do it different. Okay. Now here's a doc that's taken the course. I've been in private practice for 23 years. I own and operate a successful sports medicine clinic in Austin, Texas. Dr. Bonebreak's mentoring program is a no fluff, no cookie cutter, no one size fits all. I basically ask you, okay, where are you perceiving the problems? I don't try to make your practice into mine. But we take the problems that you're having and I show you how to resolve them, because I don't want to just give you a cookie cutter approach like most of them are. They're all pretty much the same. We look at yours individually and say, okay, let's help you right here. Okay. His years of being in the trenches, running a busy practice, lecturing is priceless. He's seen and probably failed at more than you or I will ever come close to. Thus, his knowledge is priceless. Clinically, his wealth of chiropractic knowledge is over the top. 2 thumbs up. Here's Jeremy Taylor, who's also in Texas. I can't believe how much my practice has changed and grown since I began mentoring with Dr. Bonebreak. Mostly sports chiropractic. We have many office warriors as well. Learn to look outside the box. Fix so many things that wouldn't resolve before like 15. And he goes through a whole lot of stuff here. And you're welcome to, get this from me and I'll send it to you. And we help all aspects of your office. What a lot of these doctors do is they're asking me about their practices, how to help specific patients as well as how to run the practice. And there's Dr. Mitchell, and he's got a huge practice, and we helped him. He didn't know that he needed a mentor, and he found out he did, and we've helped him a lot. He doubled his net profit in the first year he was with me. Dr. Ziansky, he is in Chicago. He recently moved down to Florida. He had a lot of improvements. Dr. Squardo's in Cleveland. He had a lot of improvements. Dr. DeSaulniers is in California. He had a lot of improvements. So basically what I'm saying is don't wait around. Get right in there and let's do something for you now. Don't let it get away from you. So what are the different mentoring levels? Well, we have several different levels. Everyone's a good fit. It enables you to become top level. We take everything out of scientific methodology and literature. We help you become a nerve and biochemistry expert. Get referrals from everywhere. Get paid what you're worth. Low stress. and better family time. Okay? Like I said, I've seen over 40,000 patients from all 50 states and from 97 countries. Others committed to change their lives. It's your turn now. Just close your eyes a minute and imagine having the business of your dreams. Smooth running, plenty of highly satisfied and enthusiastic patients, as many as you want. Financial security, time to enjoy with your family, time to exercise regularly, great health. 3 reasons to join and make it work for you. You will devote the effort and time and dedication to get what you want. Charisma certainly isn't necessary. You hear me talk, I've been described as totally monotone. You hear me trip over my voice all the time here. I stutter. If I can do it, you can sure do it. I am not like David Singer. You know, he has charisma coming out every one of his orifices. I'm just not that way. Neither do you need to be to have an excellent practice. Mine is many times bigger than his ever was. We have group or one-on-one mentoring. It's very affordable. Your next step, commit to be superlative. Go to ttapcenter.com, choose a mentoring level that fits you, and commit to change your life. Now, we have a 12-month group mentoring. So it's a 1 hour a week, weekly, group interactive podcast, just like this. Only you type things in. You get to see the problems everybody else is having. You throw yours in there. You learn from each other because I answer, okay, here's how you take care of this. Just $250 a month, or one payment of $2,500. It saves you $500. This is 12 months. You get 52 calls, 1 hour calls. We cover anything in your practice. I help you, if you're having trouble treating patients, you bring it up and I say, okay, here's how you do it. Here's step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. I want you to get to where when something is presented to you, either with a patient treatment or in your practice, your mind immediately goes, okay, let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, just like this, to take care of it quickly. Okay, I want you to start having the knowledge to think quickly and act on things. Now, if you choose to step up to the 1-year one-on-one mentorship in the first 3 months, you get those benefits, which we're going to come up to. Now, the next one is the 6-month. Only this is one-on-one mentoring, not group. So you get a call a week for 26 weeks, $1,000 a month, or one payment of $4,000, which saves you $2,000. So you get any aspect of your practice. And what I do is, since you know what's going on in your practice, what's not going on, I tell you to keep a small notebook with you at all time. When you think of something you need to know, you write it down, whether it's treatment of the patient or some problem you're having in your practice, so that we can cover it for you in that hour, okay? Because I want to get to the things that are bugging you right now. I don't want to superimpose everything that I think you ought to be doing A to Z. Present your problems to me and we take care of them. We address those directly. That's why these doctors like my style, because I'm not trying to make their practice into my practice. I'm trying to solve problems for you with my experience, which is considerable. We cover what's on top of your radar first. Now, if you decide to step up to the 1-year one-on-one mentoring in the first 3 months, you get all of its benefits too. Now, what is that? So you get an hour call once a month for here 52 months. It's $1,000 a month, or pay $8,000 in advance. You save $4,000. You also get all the films. You get 4 seminars, and we're going to be putting them online for CEs. But you can choose that, or you can choose 12 in-person seminars. Okay, so all the films for a year, 12 online or in-person seminars. We're also, after we're done with the films, we're going to make a link for your website to go through. And what we're going to do is put, now I have thousands of testimonials of doctors and patients. So we're going to categorize them so that anybody can go on your website, link through, and see everything. If you take part 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, it'll go through to that. Now, if you want to take this separately, that's fine. That's only $50 a month for each part. But what it does is people inquiring about your practice, you tell them, well, I use these techniques. They'll say, oh, well, fine. But they go through and they see that the doctors are having this type of success and the patients are having this success. Now it looks a whole lot better to them. They're going, wow, he's taking this and these are all the results that are going on. Now, I did this on my own website and I experienced 20 absolutely new patients for each section every month. And I directed my own patients. I emailed them, said, go on and look at these. And they saw things they didn't know that I could help with. And so I had 20 re-ups every month. So these were good for 160 essentially new patients every month. When I put them up on my website, you're going to experience a whole lot of that. Very inexpensive if you even want to do $50 for each one, but you get this automatically when you do the 12-month one-on-one. Also, we're going to have a doctor's blog. And you can get in on those if you've had the sites, $50 a month for each course, but you get it for free and you get to interact with the other doctors. And one of the things that's going to happen is you guys are going to interact and you're going to put in things that you're doing that aren't my techniques, but you're also going to interact on your techniques. And you're going to say, well, I did this and I got these results, or I have this happen right here. Anybody know the answer to this? I don't know the answer. And you want me to chime in? I'll chime in too. Nobody can quite figure it out. I'll say, okay, this is what I would do. So you're going to learn different stuff from each other, having nothing to do with the techniques that I'm teaching, but you're all going to be talking about how you used my techniques and got results also. And I'll put in my 2 cents also if you ask me to. So you get all of this. Now, at the end of the year, if you want to re-up, it's only half price. Okay? So it's only $4,000 if you re-up, if you prepay, or $1,000 a month for 6 months. So the re-up, and most of the docs are doing that too because they got so much out of it. Now, basically, you got to commit to have your dream practice. And I'm a person, I don't wait on anything. I jump in and I learn whatever I can. So if you're just waiting around, that's all you're going to be doing. Jump in with both feet and get results. Get your dream practice. Business results depend on your effort and following directions. Lose your excuses. Take consistent action. If you do this, sign up. If you don't, if you don't plan on that, don't do it. You're the one that has to make the changes. I give you the information and encouragement. You're the one that has to take action to improve your life. Okay? So you can go online. You can call me and ask me about it. And that's fine. You can do that. So before we take off for the day, does anybody have any questions that you would like to ask here that haven't been answered yet? Anybody have any questions whatsoever? Okay, I want to thank you for joining in, and we'll have another class next Thursday. So not Wednesday. If I make the mistake again, it's Thursday. So make sure you jump in, and thank you for joining in. And we'll talk to you later. Thank you. Okay, we had static on this one. I'm not sure about that. It may be on the connection through Zoom. I haven't had that from others. Anyway, I'll try and check it. Thank you so much for that, Joy. Okay, we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.